So welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this Shamans Directory live event. I am Tricia Bennett and I'm on the east coast of the United States on a little island called Martha's Vineyard. And our guest today is on another island. And before we begin, I'm just going to say a tiny bit about the directory. Shamans Directory is, I would call, a brand new directory. We just launched in April of this year for healers and teachers to join us, and just opened the Find a Shaman function in August. And I love saying that, Find a Shaman. We'd love to invite you to visit our website, which is shamansdirectory.com, to check out the amazing healers and teachers that are already listed on the site, as well as to take a look at our About page, see who our ambassadors are who are stepping into our One Fire, One Medicine vision of bringing shamanic healers and teachers from around the world on a platform so that you can find skilled shamanic healers and teachers on a platform that's much like any other great wellness, mental health website where you can find professionals in other disciplines. So please check us out. And also we're on social media at Shamans Directory and on YouTube at Shamans Directory. So this morning, speaking of earth-based shamanic healers and teachers, we have a force of nature with us this morning as a guest. I have to say, I've been following Elizabeth for a little under a year, all of her programs and reading her books and attending some of her live events online. And my understanding is in the Andes that the great mountains are named after great teachers. And I believe that there's a volcano out there somewhere waiting to be named after Elizabeth. So I just want to say Elizabeth is a best-selling author. She's a teacher of Andean nature-based wisdom. She has been working with the Caro people in the Andes for 30 years, has helped school children there go to school. She has created a foundation to support the Caro community. She has recently opened a cultural center in Cusco that is a healing and cultural center for the Caro wisdom traditions, and to make all of their healing traditions and their beautiful handcrafts available to anyone who stops by. So we are delighted to have you, Elizabeth, and I am just so excited to hear more of your story. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Tricia and Mayumi. Thank you for putting this platform together, and thanks for inviting me in my little moment here. Before I kind of get going, I'm an organic farmer and on the big island of Hawaii. And so in the dark, I don't quite start work yet. So it's perfect, actually, it's perfect. So I'm so happy to be here. I have so much I want to share with you all. It's a really exciting moment for me because of this possibility of of giving the Quero the place they deserve in Cusco, giving the descendants of the Incas a really beautiful center from which they can share their knowledge. We actually have three parts to it. It's a hampiwasi, so a healing house, where they have three treatment rooms where they can do their healings. And then there's a yachaiwasi, a wisdom house, where they can do their teachings. And then also a weaving house. And so it was just by the grace of the Apus and Pachamama that we're here at all, and that we can share even this moment together. As my friends from Quero always say, we join together here in the heart of the computer, thanks to all of this technology, but it is really by the design and intention of the Pachamama and the Apus and the Nustas that we're here. And certainly we would not be without all of their support and permission and blessing. So I just want to open with a little traditional Wahariqui, the prayer, the invocation to all of the nature beings that surround me here and some of our global nature beings. If you guys want to join me in however you say your morning prayers, that'd be awesome. Thanks. Uku pachakai pachahanak pachakamarik. Pagarik niusta hampui. Come, 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 all beautiful primordial beings of nature. Niustas, apus, pachamama. Come, come. Give us your blessing. Irrigate us with your sami, your sweet nectar, with the most delicious living energy that comes from your bodies, with the super developed wisdom, the blessing of the heart and the power of the body. Come, come, give us this blessing so that we can speak together about you today with all our love and with our open hearts, and that our minds and our bubbles be open to your wisdom all the time. Mauna loa mauna aku akea. Hampu, 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 tutu pele, honua mea. Hele mai, hele mai. Ki hawakine o anai ho'o malu. Wisdom of the North, magnificent being of nature, mediates between the great Pacific Ocean and the land. Come, ki hawakine o anai ho'o malu. Ki hawakine o miloli'i. Protector of the fishermen of my island and the waters, and the great whales of the ocean, the great sharks and all of the amakua. Helemai, helemai, come, come, be with us, join us today. Ki hawahine o puna lu'u, magnificent mother of the water, the dark ocean. Come, come, the Punalu'u area all the way stretching up the Hilo. Come, come. Come, bless us with your power, with your potent wonder. Come, come. Apuhalalai, apukohala. Ampui, ampui. Helemai. Come, beautiful, magnificent nature beings of the big island, of all the islands of Hawaii, from the far opposite end, from Martha's Vineyard. Come, come and bless all the people here in this meeting. Give all your sami to them. Come, beautiful, 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 magnificent forces of Pachamama, Tikse Muyu, Apukuna, global Apus, Tikse Muya, Nyusta Kuna, all the healing forces of nature. Biocanista, Pucanista, Corinista, Cocanista, Hatun Comerinista, Hampu, Hampu, Inkari and Koyari, great founders of the Inka wisdom. Come, come, be with us now. Give us your permission and blessing to speak about your magnificent knowledge that lies in the hearts of all humans. Thank you, thank you. Anyai. Okay. That's better. Oh.
So there's so much to talk about. I would love to hear about the beginning of your journey. I've been reading your books and the return of the Inca, especially the beginning of your journey to Peru. And your whole story really makes me think about our own inner calling, and that each one of us has this calling, and that you listened, and that you kept listening, and that you kept hearing that voice that said, I think you're supposed to go to Peru, but your whole life's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that I want to encourage everyone to listen to their own inner calling as you're sharing today, because it's such a profound story. So I'm wondering if you'd be willing to just share a little bit about the beginning of your journey.
Sure, Tricia, I'd be happy to. Yeah, let's not pretend that this is an easy thing by any means. And it's a constant respond to the calling. I find I've definitely had moments where I think, what am I doing? This is crazy. I should just go be normal somehow. And it never works out. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
I think that about every 50 pages. I think, what was she thinking? Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I was 28. I was very idealistic. I think is really a good word for it. I was very idealistic about what I was very delighted to find psychology and begin to study psychology and find a school like the California Institute of Integral Studies that included the spiritual dimension of the human being, and was one of the few that existed back there. Uh, however, a long time ago. I started attending the school in 1985. I finished the master's in integral counseling, and I felt very good that I was home. And then when I started the PhD program was when things began to feel very unsatisfying. And I think if I would say anything to you all, like, listen to your dissatisfaction, because that's the little grain of sand in the pearl that, I mean, in the oyster, that irritation that makes you seek something else or something more, or something that maybe is incomplete, and sends you searching for the completion. And so that is really what made me I was very dissatisfied. My PhD program began to be very research focused. I wasn't interested in that. I was really interested in how do you heal people, and how do you help people, and how do people feel happy and fulfilled and have a great life. And so my best girlfriend said, well, I'm going to go learn about healing from the horse's mouth. I'm going to Peru to study with the shamans. And she reminded me recently, she's the secretary of the Wiracocha Foundation, actually, Cynthia Gonzalez, and helped me create the founding documents for it in 1996. So she went off, and she reminded me that I was the one that found the advertisement in a yoga center in San Francisco that gave her the person she was supposed to meet to go down to South America to start her whole adventure down there, which 6 months later, she ended up calling me and saying, Elizabeth, it's pretty interesting. I think you better get down here. And that's really what started the whole thing. So my wonderful colleague and soul sister, Cynthia, who was the one who went off first. And she was in the northern coastal area of Peru, studying with a man named El Tuno, Don Eduardo Calderon, there's a beautiful book written about him called The Wizard of the Four Winds. And she said, come. And so literally getting onto the plane, I was in full-time PhD. I had a full-time internship. I was like busy 90 hours a week. And I was going on vacation. And for God's sake, I'm going on vacation. And I have this epic feeling of, if you go on to Peru, your life will never be the same. And there was sort of a moment of, not hesitation, or maybe hesitation of kind of taking account of, this is something much more than a vacation. This is something momentous, but I don't know why. I just had this sort of epic feeling. And of course, that wasn't gonna have me back down. So yes, I went. And I did spend about 9 months literally walking around. Well, I met Cynthia. We had a number of adventures, which one day, those will go into a book, because it's a whole nother story about the coastal shamans that I've never really told in writing before. Um, but then I went to Cusco, and literally landing in the airport and touching the ground, I started to weep, and I knew where everything was. I went straight to this temple. It was a real strange feeling of familiarity, strangely familiar. And that's what caused me to quit everything. I'm left, literally, my fiance, my PhD. I sold all my stuff. I got rid of my apartment in San Francisco. And everyone's asking me, especially my mother, do you have a job?
Are
Do
you
you speak
okay?
Spanish? Do you know anyone there? And I'm like, no, no, no. Then what are you doing? I said, I was just going purely with this feeling that if I didn't go, I would miss the very purpose of my life. And that was the only thing that I was certain of. So, but I couldn't answer any of those other questions. I did not have a job. I did not speak Spanish. I did not know anyone that lived in Cusco. I just knew that I had to be there. And so once I did get there, I kind of walked around all the time. Well, my prayer was, I want to serve my highest purpose. That really was my constant prayer. And the other part of it that was very, very fun for me was that I kind of allowed my intuition to take over. Rather than being a very rationally directed person, following the academic pathway of, learning, suddenly there I was in Cusco, and you really, even in the direction to a place is, at that time, that was in 1988, you basically had to follow your nose to find anything there anyway. So I was literally looking, asking around for any information about the healers, about the local knowledge, about the indigenous wisdom of the place. And I wasn't getting anywhere. Literally, I was getting nowhere. And it took about 9 months before I ended up finding I got a phone call, and there was a healer. Someone called me that knew what I was looking for and said, there's a healer who does the egg diagnosis, and she's going to be doing that, tomorrow at this address. And I got this address, and there was no way you could find it. I mean, there's no like street signs in Cusco. It's all winding, crazy streets. But we ended up going and just following our noses, going out the door each morning and kind of following my intuition instead of being directed by my rational mind. And that was a really, really fun experiment. That was beautiful. So that actually led me to this healer. It's beautiful, wonderful Peruvian woman named Feli Moscosa, who was doing an egg diagnosis. And she said to me, you need to find an Andean priest. You've been invited here by the spirits of the place, and you haven't acknowledged them. And everything she said felt so like truth in my inner being. But I didn't know how to do that. Who is trained in our culture in how to greet the spirits of a place? And so I went looking for this Andean priest she was telling me about. At the time, I was teaching English to the assistant to the Archbishop of Cusco. And she says a priest, and I'm like, what? What's that good is that going to do me? She said, no, the Andean priests, the ones who speak directly to nature. And that was like, who are they? That sounds fascinating and exactly what I'm looking for. And so I went, they're not listed in the yellow pages. You can't find them. So I sort of inquired and no one responded. And I finally ended up sitting down and doing my own meditation, facing Apu Asangate. I was literally leaving the next week because I felt like I had failed. I felt like I never found the healers. I've been here 9 months. What am I doing? It's not working. And all of that led me to sit in my room and do this meditation facing the principal Apu Ausangate, the big snow peak at the end of the valley. You're 2 miles high in Cusco. I had my doors and windows bolted shut. They have these big wooden shutters which close at night to keep the cold out. There's no heat. I had my little candles lit. And I sat down I'm like, I can't find Andean priest to speak to nature for me. I'm just going to have to do this myself. And that was when sitting there facing this mountain spirit and, kind of bowing my head and saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm meditating on you. And then suddenly I saw a giant image of a man sitting on top of the mountain, kind of staring at me with a very furrowed brow, disapprovingly, and not happy. And I thought, oh, this is an image in my mind, right? Psychology, there it is. This is an image in my mind. And just as I thought that, in my sealed room, a huge freezing cold blast of wind blows over my head. And I kind of internally went, uh-oh. This is real. And that's when I felt a real sense of humility. And I said, I'm sorry, Lord of the mountain. I'm just a stupid gringa. I don't know the traditions of your place, but I want to ask your permission to live and work here. And then it was like the sun came out. I felt this I had been trembling and I was literally lying face down. I don't even know how I got there, trembling and weeping. And all of a sudden, my body relaxed. I felt I imagined, I felt warm physical lips, a kiss here, warm breath. And I completely relaxed. I felt like, oh, everything's okay now. Everything's going to be okay. The really odd thing was I kind of came out of this trance and I looked at my watch and I thought maybe like 5-10 minutes had passed, and it was an hour and 20 minutes later or something like that. And I'm like, what? And I fell asleep and I woke up the next morning, and as our beautiful Western minds do, I had diminished the whole thing into some kind of weird dream. Oh, no. That didn't happen. That was just a crazy dream. That I must have been a dream. But it wasn't a dream. I mean, I was awake. I was writing in my journal. The time is notated. But what happened the next day was really what was the most stunning of all, because everything I wanted, suddenly the doors opened. It was as if the permission was given. The very next day I met a man that I've been teaching English with for months. And he said to me suddenly on this day, he said, I hear you're interested in the Apus and Andean priests, and I work with an Andean priest. And, I just about, my jaw hit the floor, and I said, Andean priest, oh my God, let me tell you what happened to me. So I started telling him my experience, and his eyes got really huge, and he says, I think you need to come with me. And that was what started the whole thing. I was they had never had a white person. I mean, I'm Greek. I consider myself off-white, but still, I was invited into this group of people that were working with an Indian priest that were calling the Apus. And that's how then my life became like an Indiana Jones movie for the next 2 years. And until I came back, and yeah, it was a lot of it. The first part was very interesting. And I always tell people, make sure you get through the first half of the book, because the gold is in the second half. Like, we get to put through our paces. Yeah, there's tests that this is not for the faint of heart. It's not like it's given to you on a platter. There was a lot of, what we call in the tradition, the third level, the infighting, the kind of black magic stuff that you have to get through. And it was so disappointing to hit that, but it's everywhere. We do it ourselves when we think badly of other people, or, look at our current political system. It's just a nightmare of kind of infighting and what the Andean people describe as spiritual adolescence. And if you think about it, it really is like adolescence, where we're not focused on how do we resolve, how do we create what they call take, which is the joining, the merging, the harmonious, the creation of the harmonious relationship, which has always been the ideal in the Andes. Is a true leader takes care of their people and creates harmony with the surrounding other leaders, right? And that's how the Inca Empire went from a little kingdom about 25 miles around Cusco to one of the largest subcontinental empires on earth in only 150 years. So there was a kind of social engineering that was going on based on certain values that still exist in the Andes. And this is why I founded the Global Paqo School, to really teach these values, to teach these skills about how to create harmony, first of all, between humans and nature. Because we are designed to collaborate with nature. And again, this is not necessarily easy, but it's the task at hand, clearly. And to create harmony between humans and nature, and humans, because human groups, I love how the Apus, who you guys are probably all familiar with that term, which means the spirit of the mountain that inhabits the spirit of the mountain, literally, the conscious living being that is the mountain. They are the shepherds of humanity. They are called the shepherds of humanity. They're watching over us, trying to help us. And their whole tradition is about, how do you listen to that wisdom? How do you receive the guidance of these shepherds? Think about a mountain and what it's seen and how long it's been around, watching us. And what we could gain if we had the humility and the capacity to really open ourselves and listen to what nature is saying. We do have a clue that human beings and nature are designed to collaborate. It's called breathing, right? We inhale what is exhaled by Mother Nature, oxygen, and we exhale carbon dioxide, which is inhaled by oxygen, and by the plants and the trees of Mother Nature. So we're designed to each one of our waste is delicious food for each other. We're designed to collaborate in our biology. We're also designed in our emotional and spiritual and energetic selves to collaborate with the forces of nature. And the Inca tradition is simply the formulation of how you do that. It's very organic. So my figuring my way through what we call the third level, kind of this infighting and this tupai, conflict, to the delightful day in 1991 when I met Juan Nunez del Prado, and he, genius human being that he is, an anthropologist from Cusco, in my moment of kind of despair of like all these magical things had occurred and all of my world of material reality had been just ripped to shreds, blown apart. The word impossible had been permanently deleted from my dictionary. And I knew that my formulation of the world was very incomplete. There was a much bigger, much more accurate one out there. And but I didn't know what it was, but Juan gave it to me. He said, here, this is the fourth level. The Inca system of spiritual evolution works like this. You've had a very strong contact with the path, and this is what you need to go forward. And, he saved my life. He gave me, and it was everything I was looking for when I first arrived to Peru. A beautiful system of knowledge, a magnificent formulation of the energetic reality of the world, a very organic feeling. I would have an experience and he would say, oh, in the tradition, we call that a word in Quechua. And I'm like, what? There's a word for that? And all of these beautiful words in Quechua that describe our human experiences of living energy, that describe our relationship to nature, an actual energetic structure of the body that shows you how nature has a home, right? They call them the nyawis, the eyes of the body, which is the energetic, in the Inca tradition, the way the energetic body is designed to receive the forces, the nectars of nature. Yeah. And so these delicious nectar practices of that create harmony between us and great Mother Nature and help us and create healing. And then, and the teaching just goes on, because that was the beginning for me in 1991. Juan and I worked together for 10 years, bringing, 6-7 groups a year to Peru to go through the Hatun Carpa, the great initiation of the Inca. Juan's father is the one who discovered for the West that the Q'ero were the direct descendants of the Incas. He saw them in 1945 at the Coyoriti Festival. He saw their bearing, mostly their weavings, right? And these patterns that had been kind of abolished from history by the Spanish, but they were still making them. The Q'ero did not get invaded by the Spanish at the same time Cusco did, right? Because they are so far away in such a high and inaccessible remote area that they've always lived there, right? Because the Q'ero villages were actually founded before Cusco, and they've been there at least 1,000 years. There's all these stories of kind of fake mythology that somehow the Incas ran away and that's how they got to Queros. This is false, not true. They've always been there. During the whole Inca Empire, they were the ones that were taking care of the vicuña. The vicuña are the smallest camelids that you only can harvest like this little bit of their hair, and it's the softest, it's softer than cashmere. And that's what all the Inca clothing was made from. And they were the keepers of the vicuña, because the vicuñas are wild. You can't domesticate them, and they live at 14,000 feet and above. So guess what? Got to have folks up there that do that. And that's, they still have vicuña to this day. And right now they're being kind of forced to sell it to this cooperative who sells it. I don't know if you guys have ever seen vicuña. I was just in Cusco, a vicuña jacket selling for $8,000. You know,
Was it
so
the white jacket that's in the slideshow that we have today?
no, 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 no,
Oh, okay.
vicuña. Yeah, no, no. It's not being sold by the Quero. The Quero,
Oh,
they're
God.
not, right now, they're not allowed to keep their vicuña, but we're going to change that with the cultures.
Yes, I can imagine you are. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the richness, the magnificence of this tradition and what it offers to humanity at this kind of critical moment in our evolution, to me, it's precisely the medicine that is needed. And you know, I don't know, in some ways, as crazy as it is, thank goodness for the pandemic, dare I say that,
Mhm.
because it's it caused us to find a way to allow to bring work to our Quero family, who, you know, without tourists going to Cusco, they were in real trouble. Excuse me. and and so almost 2 years ago, we founded the Global Paqo School. And I was told 4 years before that, right? Because it's never over. The job is never done. You can follow your calling and your intuition, but there's always the next layer of it, right? And so
Mhm.
I was in Cusco in 2017, and I heard clearly Pachamama tell me, you need to open this school of Pachamama. And I'm like, what? How do I do that? That's terrifying. And she said, this knowledge has to, this, the school has to be created that brings this knowledge to the world. And I didn't know what to do with that, or how to do it, until the pandemic came along. And then I realized this is how we have to do it. And it's amazing. It's a beautiful way. Everything works. It's perfect. We can do all the rituals across the world. We have people from all over the world. The time gets a little tricky, but it's possible. We
It's
have
it's truly amazing. It really is. Yeah. I loved how you said from the heart of the computer. I've been taking a course with an Andean teacher who thanks the Apus who have all the cell towers on them. You know, he asks people from around the world, if you know any Apus that are loaded with cell towers, please tell me where they are so I can thank them for connecting us all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So tell us about the Global Paqo School.
Absolutely. Well, right now, so we're in our second year. We have 12 of the top Quero, the most experienced teachers. Um, some of them live in Cusco, some of them live in Ocangate, some of them live in Queros. And so if you can imagine this, they literally, they explain to us the journey. It's like, if the bus comes, it's 6 hours from their village. It's an hour to walk from their village to where the bus comes to. if the bus comes. If it doesn't come, then you have to walk another 4 hours to the other place where you can get any kind of transportation. But let me tell you, this in itself is amazing. The first time I went to Quero in 1993, it was a 12-hour bus ride from hell and 3 days on horseback to get there. The fact that it's even possible to get to Quero in like a 7-hour, if you had a nice truck, 4-wheel drive, you could get there in 7 hours now from Cusco.
Wow.
Which is like, wow, it is amazing. So they come into town and we have rotating teams. So we had to find a way to make it equitable. And we have 6 men and 6 of the women, the Nustapacos, who are phenomenal. Let me just say that for the longest time, it was only the men that we worked with. I don't know why. I guess because it was the men who really had been the more, I guess, out extroverted people, and the women were very, very shy and very quiet and withdrawn. But we got them out. Like I said, this all unveils itself in layers. And in 2014, my guide that I've worked with and translator for 20 years, Freddie called me and said, I'm on the Mama Simona mountain, and we've just found an original Misha with the kuyas still in it. It was incredible. So they unearthed the original principal altar of Mama Simona. Mama Simona so there's 12 sacred apus that surround Cuzco City, and only one of them is female, and she is Mama Simona. And her job, her power is to connect and integrate all 12 apus. Sound like a female power.
Of course she is. She's the mother. Wow.
So Mama Simona she was a priestess. She was half Inka and half Spanish. And that's why her name is Mama Simona. And her spirit, when she died, was imbued in the mountain. And so when Mama Simona in May of 2014 kind of opened her altar, all of this female knowledge started to come out. One of the Nustapacos called me a few months later and said, I want to start teaching. Will you help me? And so I said, of course, my God, I've been waiting for this. So now we have a team of 6 Nustapacos that are phenomenally powerful and full of wisdom. And their initiations are off the charts. So we literally have them coming to Hawaii in January. They're going to teach a seminar, a Nustapaco intensive here at my farm. And they're also going to be coming in August to teach a seminar in Costa Rica. So if anybody's interested in any of that information, I don't know if I can I put a little something here in the chat?
You can, and you can also send me anything you want to have in the template that goes up on YouTube.
Okay.
So also on the slideshow today, images that you sent me, I have both websites and your books and everything, so people can screenshot the website for, oh, there you go.
So this is just a link to join our newsletter, and then you will get the information that's going to come out, I think, next week about the new Paqo seminars and the Global Paqo School. So we founded the Global Paqo School in January of I guess it was 2021. And again, this was in response to a kind of direct, a direct order. I mean, you try to listen as best you can, right? And you don't know when these things are going to happen or how the organic structure will evolve. But my job is I just try to listen as best I can. We moved to the Big Island because listening
Mhm.
to Tutupele, who was calling me to come here and create, basically have our farm here. Because I was traveling around the world talking to people about living in harmony with nature, and I said, I really want to do this. I don't want to talk about it. I want to actually live this way. So all of the Queropacos are amazing organic farmers, which I don't know, you guys must know, or maybe not, but up in their villages at 14,000 feet, they're growing. Well, they have three different areas where they grow different things. And in the highest area, there's potatoes. And in the lower areas in the jungle, there's corn. And but it's mostly potatoes, which I used to feel sorry for them about that until I saw the incredible variety of potatoes that they grow, and I've tasted them, and they're amazing, and they're sweet, and they're all different kinds, and they're really glorious. So I don't know if you all know this, that Monsanto never arrived to Peru. Peru rejected Monsanto. And so there's no Monsanto in their food system. And their food is incredible. And the Incas developed food for nutrition first and taste second. And appearance doesn't even matter because it's all about the nutritional power of the food, which to me, that's the right way to do things. So also here on our farm, we grow coffee and macadamia nuts and 16 varieties of avocados. So, and the
Wow.
Care have been coming here since we got here and helping us. And so the whole idea of creating sacred farming is what we do here in the Quero Nation. They literally have a team that will be the ones who do all the ceremonies to Pachamama for that growing season, right? So you have people doing the composting, people doing the planting, people turning over the soil, people doing the, different teams, and one team specifically devoted to the ceremonial honoring of Pachamama, which, I mean, makes perfect sense. That's the way to do farming. So that's what we've adopted here on our farm as well. So it's really a wonderful way to live and be. So on our new website, wiracochafoundation.org, which I just put up in the chat, you will find the Global Paqo School. You will find explanations about it when it starts. We're starting a new cycle in January of 2023. The doors are open for applications. There are 3 prerequisites classes because there's such basic information that you need to know before joining the school. But it is literally, it's 3 sessions of 12 weeks. It's very intensive. You're sitting with the Pacos every week. It's for 2 hours. They're talking, it's direct translation. You can ask them anything you want. They're teaching, they're doing the transmission in the traditional Quero style. If you've learned Andean stuff before, it's probably going to be very different, or maybe not. Depends on where and with whom you learned. There's a lot of different traditions in the Andes. You have traditions from Chinchero, which are like Freddie Puma, who's a wonderful teacher. I first met when he was 15. I still think of him like he's 15, isn't he? No, he's not. He's a beautiful grown man. So that's a really different tradition than the Quero knowledge. They're all wonderful and unique and different, but the Quero, just so that people know, are just a tiny group. You know, it's about 3,000 Quero left on the planet. And when I first went there, there was about 2,000 Quero, and there was a 60% infant mortality rate in Hatun Queros because of, yeah, a bunch of different factors. But we went in and put in a charcoal water filter system and got that cleaned up and going. And the past year, we put Wi-Fi in the schools so the kids could continue to go to school during the pandemic. We built water reservoirs for them. So everything, if you join Wiracocha Foundation School, there is a large portion of whatever you pay monetarily that's going. Let's see, it was 86% of all the income from last year that went directly to the Quero and to programs that benefit the community, like the Wi-Fi, like the water reservoirs, because the global warming, the glaciers are melting where they normally get their water source for the food, the animals, to water their crops. So we've built 3 reservoirs. 2 of them need to be amplified because they're too small. We've put in piping. We bought them. We had to repair a lot of the piping so that they have clean water with a charcoal filter system, and these lovely fountains in the center of each village. I mean, they're water taps so people can get good clean water. We're improving their alpaca herd so that their weavings they can have a finer wool for the alpaca weavings that they do in our cultural center, in the weaving house. So the Global Paqo School, so if you become part of our Wiracocha family, it's always supporting the Quero in many different ways. We also have this is the beauty of doing this for such a long time. I started a scholarship program for the Quero youth to be able to attend a really, really good private school in Cusco. The Quero have been bullied in Cusco forever. They're treated terribly, especially the kids. So we got, about 12 years ago now, I think, we created this scholarship program. These kids have gone through school with flying colors. 4 of them have graduated college, university, with degrees in hotel administration. Guess what they're doing? They're running the cultural center. So, yes.
That is so exciting. Yeah.
They're being trained to run the cultural center. So, yeah. Sorry, there's nothing I can do about the lighting here.
Oh, no worries. No problem. No, it's fine. We can see
The sun
you.
is coming up, but it's going to take a little few more minutes.
No worries. It's great.
So basically the Global Paqo School, in the words of Don Martin, Papa Don Martin, who is one of our eldest, Alto Misayok, he says, we are not opening a school. We are not opening a new school. We are reopening the ancient school of Pachamama. And that is really what it feels like. So most of the work that we do is, if it's something that you're interested in or appeals to you or you want to know more about, it's 3 12-week sessions over the whole year. And most of the work is you literally going out and doing pilgrimages to your own nature beings where you live and connecting to them, because this is how it's traditionally done. The Misha, right? This, my kids used to call the power pillow. Okay.
That's so great. Oh my God.
It's created through hundreds of pilgrimages that you make to your nature beings over time, and making offerings to them to place yourself in harmony, in an energetic resonance with your nature beings that surround you, until one day you feel like you're ready to ask them for a kuya. And a kuya is a gift that holds their living energy. And when you do this 12 times, you get one of these. That's how these are created. So they are literally the power of all the nature beings that surround you, kind of imbued in one package that is constantly being honored and gifted to and celebrated. And then this is what you use for healing, because all of the healing in the Andean tradition is about having the capacity to invoke the living energies of nature and direct them where they need to go. So it's very organic. I know that some people have been taught different ways of the Misha being created, but this is how the Q'ero do it. And this is the tradition that we follow. We do what they tell us, and we do it the way they tell us to do it. So, and they're so happy. They've told me, we're so happy to have our authentic tradition being presented to the world. And probably the biggest honor for me was the day one of our Q'ero teachers said, "Elizabeth, you never try to put words in our mouth.
Mm.
You ask us what our knowledge is, and you tell that to the people." And that was just such a beautiful moment for me, because that's always been my intention. Trying to make the translation from the Q'ero worldview to our worldview is not easy. So I understand why people have had trouble
Mm.
and how a challenge it is to really live in the mind of a Q'ero for one day or 1 hour or 5 minutes would be amazing, because everything is living energy. When they've said to me, you look outside and you see the animals and the plants and the trees, that's Pachamama. She is speaking. Whatever you see, she is delivering messages to you all the time. It's constant. And having Don Umberto here on our farm, we were asking him about the Nustas, because Nusta, we thought meant Inca princess, right? This is how it's translated in most Quechua dictionaries. And to have our understanding of what Nusta means massively amplified by Don Umberto and Doña Bernardina, are like a sacred Andean couple. For 50 years, they worked together, doing healings as a sacred couple. And they're kind of a beloved couple around the world. She died about 6 years ago, which was a terrible loss for all of us. But they would come to my farm and say, just look out the window. How do you think all of those flowers are blooming? How do you think those nuts are growing on the trees? Don't you see all the Nustas out there? There's thousands of them on the hillside. Look, don't you see them? There they are. So being able to perceive the way they perceive is really kind of well, and just the honor of sitting in their presence. The other thing that I want to mention that we teach in the school, and that the Quero people, if we can all imagine this, from the moment of their birth, they are having their any kind of trauma addressed, because there's a practice called animo wahai, which means to call the life force of the person. So anytime you have a trauma, if it's physical, if it's emotional, mental, whatever kind of shock or trauma you have, they say we lose a little bit of our life force, right? It's kind of the idea of soul retrieval, but it's really in a different formulation. It's much more direct and simple. You don't go anywhere to retrieve the peace, because it's in the world of living energy that we already inhabit. It's just sort of a matter of recognizing where you are and then learning how to do it. So from the day they're born, with the birth trauma for the mother and the child, there are collective people in the community that are going to be recalling the life force of the person after that, the first trauma of birth. And that happens for every person in the community. And then any kind of shock or trauma that the child has, the community is always going to be recalling their energy, their life force back into their body with this ceremony of animo wahai. So that is why I finally have an explanation for why when you hang out with the Quero, you feel so good, because their bubbles are complete. Their energy field is intact, because it's been cared for and looked after by their community for their entire life. And imagine living in a place where that happens. And why can't we recreate that kind of experience in our communities? I've been talking to some doulas and some midwives about this, and talking about how could it become instituted into the profession, because I mean, we know that these kind of initial shocks and traumas, and as they go on and a person becomes weaker, you're more susceptible to illness, physical illness. So having your bubble, your energy field looked after and cared for, this is what we do in our school. So in the school, you have each session, you have an animo wahai with a team of 3 Quero. Usually one will knock your socks off, but you get 3.
Would you be
And that
willing to
happened.
spell that in the chat when you have a second to put that anima huactai in the chat so we know how to spell it?
Sure. Animo is a Spanish word, which means life force, right? And wahai is a Quechua word, which means to call. So when I first said the wahariqui, and this is another thing that we specifically train you to do in our school, because a lot of people have studied the Andean tradition for years, but never learned the wahariqui, which is the invocation that you need to be able to perform to call the nature beings, right? So wahariqui is one of the first things that we teach. We teach the traditional method of haiwariqui, which is the offering that people often use the Spanish word for that, which is despacho. So despacho means to send. Haiwarikui means to offer with your own hand. So it's a very different meaning of the word. So we try to, I don't think, we don't, in our school, we try to learn the authentic words and the original words and their original meaning. The Misha that people have often conflated with the word mesa, right, is not the same thing. The Misha in Quechua means marked or signaled by nature beings. So this became a way of marking the Pacos. If you have one of these, the Apus look at you and know you are the person that knows how to make the offerings to them.
Hmm.
So you are marked or signaled by the Apus. That's the meaning of this word Misha. Okay. Mesa is Spanish word, which means table or altar. And it's not the same word, though they get kind of conflated sometimes, yeah. So once you gather, you do all those pilgrimages. So for the Quero, this takes about 10 years to complete, generally, because you're making pilgrimage after pilgrimage after pilgrimage to your 12 surrounding nature beings who are your shepherding you, right? And the other thing that's really basic information for this tradition is that we have 4 parents, not 2. We as human beings have a human mother and father that give us obviously our biology, our body. And if we're not adopted, they probably give us our culture and our language and our probably some of our psychological makeup. But for the Quero, so they give us our beginning, our human parents, our human mother and father, our DNA, our beginning. But it is our nature mom and dad, our mother water, our pacarina, and our father mountain. Your Itu Apu is your father mountain. And it's our mother water and our father mountain that hold the living energy and the wisdom we need to accomplish our destiny. Right? So and I find this really interesting, just as having a background as a psychotherapist, that a quaternity is a much more stable foundation. If our identity is 4-fold rather than binary, yeah, that's a much more stable structure. And in my 30 years of kind of teaching this all over the world, and people beginning to recognize who is my mother water, who is my father mountain, and starting to relate to their nature parents, a whole nother thing is created. I had one Italian Paco who's like, oh, no, 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 that can't be my mother water, the river Po, because she's so polluted. Oh, no, 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 can't be that. And then I said, oh, well, you might want to ask her. Ask her. And he comes back the next day with his head hanging down. It's like, oh my God, she's my mother. And he's created a whole movement to clean this river from this experience, this powerful personal experience of this is my mom. Oh my God, I have to take care of her. And what he received back from her, you know.
I just had this image of the Ganges when you were talking about that. Yeah. She's a lot of people's mother.
Right. My mom is the Hudson River in New York. How many people have that mama? You know, did you see how she landed that plane, by the way? Wasn't
Well
that
done.
wasn't that pilot guy?
Right.
That was her. That was mama.
Yeah. Wow.
So I really want to encourage you all to think about, and it's not the place you like the best as a kid. It's not, you might have an initial aversion to your Pakarina and Itu Apu. It's possible. But the power of your nature mom and your nature dad is undeniable. People have, if I could share with you my own experience of meeting my Itu Apu, which is
Please.
Great Hill in Central Park, Manhattan, right? It was like uh, I was tripping in New York. And I was
Tell
like,
me, you say it again, that your Itu Apu is Central Park?
Great Hill in Central Park.
Okay.
Do you know where Great Hill is?
I think so. It's
The
rock.
tallest, it's the tallest point in Manhattan in the Central Park. It's by like 104th Street, Central Park West.
Mm-hmm.
That's right next to Mount Sinai Hospital, where I was born. And Don Umberto, once he was explaining, he we were doing healings here at my farm. There was a line out the door of about 20 people. And Don Umberto was taking a little break. And I said, Don Umberto, what is the biggest dis-ease that you see in people in our culture? What is the biggest problem that you see people have? And he said, you know, when I call their Pakarina and their Itu Apu, their nature mom and dad, they begin to cry and wail. It's as if they've never met them. How could that even be possible? Right? And it was one of those kind of like a National Geographic moment where I went, oh my God, you mean you always knew who your Pakarina and Itu Apu was? And he looked at me and said, you mean you guys don't know about your Pakarina and Itu Apu? And he literally started to weep and said, how can you even live? How is that possible? He said, without the help and the connection, the energetic conversation, constant communication with your Itu Apu and Pakarina, your power as a healer is zero. That was his statement. Because from his point of view, your Pakarina and Itu Apu are the foundation of your healing power, your healing ability, because it's all about how you are able to call and connect to nature and invoke nature on the behalf of other people. Yeah. And this is what we feel when we're with the Kero. We know, wow, there's something amazing here. There's so much, they're so humble, they're so simple, they're so beautiful, but it's so much power because they have a totally intact energy field that is grounded and connected to their nature parents. So these are the two nature beings that exist right at the place you came out of your mother. So right there, spitting distance from where you were born, not your favorite place where you grew up, nothing. It's nothing about your favorite place. Though it could be, but it's the exact place where you made the commitment to have an incarnation. You were born, you came out of your mom. That's the place. And it could be a little tiny creek, okay? Great Hill, my Itu Apu is only 100 feet tall. It doesn't have to be some giant mountain. It doesn't have to be a towering peak or giant ocean, or no, it can be a little creek that flows right next to the house where you were born, or a spring, like right there where you were born. It's right there, right on the spot. So Google Earth is the Paco's best friend. If you don't live near where you were born.
I love that. Google Earth, the Paco's best friend. Wow. So if you do the Pacos recommend that you make a pilgrimage to your place?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is nothing that can compare with the physical pilgrimage to your nature beings. You
Mhm.
can think about them, talk about them, make offerings from afar, which you can do. And we had to do it a lot during the pandemic because people couldn't move around.
Yeah.
And it's not that that is not good, that is good, but it still can't compare with the actual physical, visceral pilgrimage to go and meet and offer to your Pacarina and your Ituapu. They are central to us, and they make us whole. They make us feel happy and secure. And where human moms and dads can have a lot of issues and problems, our nature moms and dads are pure. They're pristine. They're full of love. If you talk to the Kero about their Pakarin and Itu Apu, you will hear beautiful love poems being spoken because of how they experience their relationship with their nature mom and dad. And if you think about human resilience, this is where it comes from. I am convinced
Mm.
this is where our human resilience comes from. Who didn't talk, who went out and talked to trees when you were a little kid and you were all disappointed with humanity?
Well, I
Or
can't remember which book it was in, but in one of the books you said, that's why it feels so good to go outside, because you're not just exchanging the carbon dioxide and oxygen, you're actually breathing in the sami that's created by all the nature beings. So you're getting all that nurturing and love in addition to just being outside.
yeah, we all instinctively go out for a walk when we don't feel good because you want to renew the sami of your bubble. Yeah.
So I just want to say that we have 10 minutes because I know you have an appointment, and I want to show your slides
Oh my gosh, I forgot all about them. Yes,
and
please.
say a little bit about your slides. And if anybody has questions, please put them in the chat. So I'm going to share my screen.
That is our Hampiwasi in the second floor with a little cute little balcony there. It says Hampiwasi. Yeah, go ahead to the next one. And that is the doors to our magnificent cultural center. And if you can see at the top, there's 3 pumas on each side. This is an ancient Inka house, and this is why it was such a score to be able to get this for our Quero family, to have this place, a truly ancient Inca house in Cusco, to be their cultural center. These are original. These are 6 pumas. Okay, go ahead. And here's our magnificent Newstapacos. We actually have 5 Quero Newstapacos, and you can see our Zenobia Cruz Condori is from the Ausangate, which is a different area, but she's married to a Quero man. So and her grandmother died at 120 and was in one of the most impressive Newstapacos of the century. So and everyone here we have here on the left side of your screen, this is Monica Kespi. She is the great niece of Don Manuel. You have Marcosa next to her. Marcosa and Manuela are the daughter and daughter-in-law of Don Umberto Sonco and Doña Bernardina. In the middle, you have Augustina. She's our eldest, Muse de Paqo, and she is a fountain of wisdom and love. And she is the widow of Don Mariano Apasa, who was one of the most powerful. Don Mariano, Don Manuel were two of the last Alto Misayos. And we have Zenobia here, who is fantastic, amazing, and Rosita. She's our youngest Muse de Paqo, but speaks little, but gives these amazing gems when she talks. Okay, go to the next one. This is on Mama Simona. This is the altar of Mama Simona here. This is peak that you see in the background is the Mama Simona. These are our Paqos, our Apu Paqos. This is Juan Apasa. He's the son of Don Mariano. This is Don Umberto Sonco next to him. I'm going from left to right. In the middle, we have Francisco Apasa, Lorenzo Capacapasa, and Ricardo. Papa Don Martin was not available that day, but I think he appears later. These are some of the beautiful, this is the offering made to the Mama Simona. And you will learn how to make these as well. This is something we constantly do in the school. Constantly making beautiful offerings. That one is particularly gorgeous. Okay, go to the next. Yeah, isn't that a beauty? So we had about 80 kero. Right in the middle, I don't know if you can see this woman holding up the camera. That's Cinta Gonzalez. There she is. And back here is my son, Sammy, with a nice afro sticking out.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's my son, my youngest. My oldest is over here, the beardy guy. Anyway, we had about 80 kero at this magnificent opening of the cultural center, during which Juan Nunez del Prado, there's Papa Don Martin smiling in the center here.
I have a picture of Juan somewhere here. It's coming.
I thought I had one.
Yep, it's right here.
Juan is just turned 77. And Juan is an incredible fountain of wisdom, and he brought 8 books in his he was our keynote speaker for this inaugural address because Juan explained how the wisdom held in the Quero Nation and the myth of Inkari and Coyari, the founding couple of the Inca tradition, was the impetus and the force behind 2 revolutions in Peru. And he was explaining with articles and books to the Quero the incredible impact that they have had on their own country that they did not know. Yeah. Wow. And so with that statement, our next thought was, well, what's going to happen now that we're bringing their wisdom house to Cusco? What will that create next? So there we have it. That's the cultural center and the store, if you will, on the right-hand side, and then above it, on the second floor, is our teaching house, and then the healing house is over on the left.
And I had to include the next series.
Oh gosh, yeah. Thank you. My husband in his reunification with Papa Don Umberto is so sweet.
It's just the love is just oozing in that. So I had to put that little series in there.
Thank you. And this is a beautiful poncho made by Zenobia. with her some of the traditional patterns of the Ausangate. And just to show you, this is our treasurer, Rowena and Freddie. And this was our Hatun Karpai trip in we just came back from in Peru.
I think we've seen pretty much these are the same women. Yeah, these were just really and beautiful, colorful pictures. And this is our whole GPS faculty and staff right here out in front of the lake. And if anybody wants to screenshot that, you're welcome to. This is the Wiracocha Foundation website, and these are Elizabeth's books and her websites. And we'll post these on YouTube as well. Wonderful. So thank you. I think we're just almost out of time. We've got one question. What's the best way to ask and meet your Pakarina and Itu Apu? Yeah. Well, one of them is literally if you're not sure, find out exactly where you were born. Go there and ask, Mom, Dad? Is it you? Yeah. Are you my mother? Like the baby duckling? Yeah. And I think the other thing is believe what you receive. We receive information through so many channels. And if you're interested in knowing more about that, in my book, The Fourth Level, I have diagrams of the Inka energy system and how it's designed in the body. And our belly, right? We always say we have a gut. You have a gut feeling about something. That is literally the knowledge of your belly eye receiving information from the environment. So listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, believe what you receive. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much. I have loved having you here. I know everyone else has. And we'd love to have you back anytime. If you have things you want to share, just let us know. And thank you everyone for being here. We have at least once or twice a month live events, so we hope to see you all again soon. Thanks so much. So much. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all. Aloha. Aloha. Have a lovely day. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.